Hi, everybody. I'm Ross the Boss, and welcome to Waiver Wire Roundup on MFSN. I'm Ross the Boss. I'm here with Kasey, Vlad to the bone, Shinefold. Kasey, say hello.
How you doing, Ross? It's good to be here.
I don't know why I can't talk today. I didn't do my voice exercises, so
You
maybe
should have
that's
done
why.
them. I know. It's
I
pretty
know.
bad.
Let's talk about last night. The 49ers looking like a definitely Super Bowl reckoning team right now. They destroyed Arizona. Arizona without Murray. I know McCoy started. What's your thoughts on the game?
I mean, we knew once CMC went to San Francisco that offense was going to be scary. Now all their weapons appear to be healthy, and it's hard to pick another team in the NFC over them right now. I know the Eagles are playing very well. They got a little lucky to get out of Indianapolis with a win, and so clearly they're the number one seed. Dallas played great, but outside of those two, is there really anybody else you think that could hang with the 49ers?
Well, I'll say a team, and you're not going to like it, just because what they did on Sunday to the first place Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota. The Dallas Cowboys won 40-3 in Minnesota. Kasey Shinefold. That was, to me, a team you got to be reckoned with during Super Bowl time. I feel the NFC, all of a sudden, they became a strong division with, like you said, 49ers, Dallas, and the Eagles. Those are the three. Those are the three-tier teams. I mean, there's nobody better in the NFC. So yes, I would say the Cowboys, which we'll talk about later because they actually play on Thursday. We'll talk about all the Thursday games, Kasey Shinefold, and I want to hear your opinion on each one, obviously. I'm excited. It's Thanksgiving week. This is a great week, Kasey. I can't wait.
Yeah.
But before we get started, let's talk about all the injuries that happened on Sunday. It wasn't pretty. I mean, Justin Fields, who was like the leading quarterback the past 5 weeks in fantasy, he hurt his non-throwing shoulder. He's questionable. I say he plays. What do you think?
I think he'll probably play, certainly. I mean, he still did well for fantasy owners. Was he a revelation like he'd been the previous few weeks? No, but he was still probably a top 10 quarterback. I didn't look at the final standings, but he ran for a touchdown, threw for another one. So he still got you the numbers before he got hurt.
No, again, I picked him up in a few leagues. I have him. I have Burrow. I mean, I have a few options now. I love Fields. It just depends on the matchups now. If the Bears are playing a weak team, I'll start Fields. I'm not afraid to anymore. I mean, he's a guy that has to be reckoned with in fantasy. I think the shoulder's fine. If you have Fields, start him unless you have a better option. But again, if you want to ask questions to us, we can ask fantasy questions. We can ask dynasty questions. We can ask keeper questions. You name it, we can answer it. I know the trade deadlines in some of these leagues are almost over. So we'll answer trades. But, it's funny. I know some leagues that don't have like a trade deadline. You could trade like week 17.
That would be terrible.
It makes no sense.
Could you imagine you're in the championship against somebody and they manage to pull a trade off to improve their team going into the game?
Well, the only reason I would say like it's fair if it's a dynasty league. If it's a redraft league, that's totally illegal. I mean, I was telling somebody this. It's like you should not be able to trade.
Yeah, fortunately, I haven't been in any of those leagues yet. So I
they haven't.
I don't feel quite so dirty.
Another injury over the weekend is Alvin Kamara hurt himself. I think he'll be back next week.
That didn't seem like a big one. Wan'Dale Robinson tore his ACL.
Oh, let's talk about that one. So Wan'Dale's out for the year. And we'll talk about waiver wire pickups, but that's a huge loss for the Giants and people who picked him up in fantasy. I mean, he was one of our waiver wire pickups a couple of weeks ago.
Yep. Yeah, he was one of my top ones, and he did. But to make me feel a little bit better, Kadarius Toney is also supposed to miss time now with a hamstring. And what did I say last week? Pick him up, but be prepared. He's a walking hamstring waiting to get hurt.
He's a walking injury hospital guy waiting to happen. Another big injury, probably one of the biggest disappointments in fantasy this year, is Kyle Pitts for Atlanta. I mean, I've seen this guy play in person. He's a specimen. I mean, this guy's 6'7". He's built like a rock. He's faster than light. I mean, the guy is unbelievable. But now he's done for the year. I mean, he's somebody that people are drafting 4th, 5th round.
Did they say he's out for the year?
Oh yeah, they say he's out for the year. He's not
disappointing.
He's not coming back, Casey Scheinfeld. So he's another big injury. Another injury. I thought he was coming back, but I don't know, something happened during the game. It's Mike Williams of the Chargers. I'm not quite sure what's happening with him, but take a look at that. Palmer's been filling in great. He had like 2 touchdowns for the Chargers. He's like the 4th option in wide receivers, but he's moving up the chain just because of all the injuries.
Yeah.
Joe Mixon has a concussion. He's on concussion protocol, Casey. And usually when a player goes on concussion protocol, usually it's a week. They don't play the next week. They really don't.
Can thank, and ironically, because we're talking about Joe Mixon, you can thank the Bengals for that, for what they did to Tua Tagovailoa in that game when they slammed him to the ground. Since that happened, certainly the NFL is looking at the optics of players coming right back in after a head injury and making it pretty difficult to get them out there too quickly. I just want to say hi, Just Bob. I see you there. I wouldn't be in a league like that either, but I'm glad you're part of the show. That's for sure.
Just Bob, welcome to the party, pal. Those were the major injuries this week. Joe Mixon, again, we'll talk about waiver wires and what you should be doing. But those are the injuries that I thought were most important for fantasy players.
I think Chase Edmonds' high ankle sprain is a big part of it. Melvin, and then you got to look at the guy who was released.
Yeah, let's talk Melvin Gordon. We talked about this before the show. Melvin Gordon had another fumble on Sunday, and they waived him. The Denver just said, we had enough. 5 fumbles in 1 year. That's enough for us. You're gone. They waived him. And then, like you mentioned, Chase Edmonds' high ankle sprain. And now they're just down to one running back, Latavius Murray. And he's under 50% in Yahoo, right, Casey?
He is. Last I checked, let me double check. I have him as 25% owned, and he's going to be the lead back. Now, look, Denver is not an attractive offense to own fantasy pieces of right now, but to get a number 1 running back at this point in the season coming into the playoffs, that's hard to find. And so I would, if I had a lot of budget room left and he was available, I would use most of it to get him. That's for sure.
And if you guys want to ask us questions, go ahead. We'll answer anything you want in fantasy football, even in NFL football. We have super stickers. We have super chat. You name it. We got it. Guys, just quiz us away. I'm ready for you. Let's talk about waiver wire. I love this part of the show. Let's talk about quarterbacks who are under 60% in Yahoo. My number 1 quarterback pickup, I just love his matchup, Casey Scheinfeld. I love his matchup. He's placed against the worst defense when it comes to passing defense. It's Tyler Heineke. I think I said that right. Heineke. Yeah, you say tomato, I say tomato, Casey. I don't know. But Taylor Heineke, who I like a lot. I thought he should have been starting beginning of the year. That's who I like. But he's playing against Atlanta. He had a pretty good game last week. He's under 60%. What's your thoughts on Tyler Heineke as being your number 1 pickup for fantasy quarterbacks this week?
I certainly like him. He's not a bad play. He's got good connection with Terry McLaurin. You see that. They have some good chemistry. Jahan Dotson, I think, is coming back. Or
he's back.
Either came back last week or is coming back this week.
He's back.
So he's going to have all the weapons out there. And Atlanta, that's who they're playing, right?
They're playing Atlanta, the worst. The worst coverage I've ever seen.
And their running game hasn't been anything to write home about lately. So he's going to have plenty of opportunities to throw. So I like him. I also like Matt Ryan this week. He's not a bad pickup there. Who's he playing?
They're playing Pittsburgh.
Right.
Pittsburgh's defense. It's not the defense from the 70s with Jack.
No, it's still better than it was. But
LC Greenwood's not there, Casey. But Watt's there. They have Watt.
TJ Watt is back, but Matt Ryan doesn't hold the ball very long. He throws these 2, 3, 4-yard slants. And you can beat Pittsburgh that way. I think he can put up serviceable numbers. Are there buys this week or are the buys done?
There's no buys this week. Next week, there are a couple buys, but this week it's a full slate because we have 3 games on Thursday. And your buddy Just Bob is asking a question. Casey, why don't you read it?
Friday's my last day to trade. Good for you. Good. At least it's not week 17 like Ross prefers. Sent Kamara, Olave, and Michael Pittman for TJ Hawkinson and ETN. I actually really, especially with Kamara being hurt, Olave had a pretty good week, but I like TJ Hawkinson in Minnesota's offense, and ETN has been great for Jacksonville the last 5 or 6 weeks. I think he had 1 mediocre week. But other than that, you're getting the healthier running back who catches the ball, and you're getting the best. I mean, you're getting a really good tight end. I don't know who your other tight end was, if he was one of the guys who was hurt, but I actually really like the trade.
Yeah, I wouldn't even play. Pittman wouldn't even probably be my team. I would probably leave it by now.
Just Bob just said that New Orleans has a bye in week 14.
Yeah, this isn't week 14, Kasey Scheinfeld. What are we talking about?
Yeah, but I was. Does anybody?
All the teams are playing this week. Okay, so quarterback. I don't really don't have any other quarterbacks to pick up on waiver wire. I mean, if you're really desperate, I mean,
Arizona and Carolina are on bye this week.
Oh, they are. Arizona and Carolina. I thought Carolina played somebody this week.
Wow, okay. There are 6 teams on bye in week 14.
I know that. Okay, so let's talk about. Did you hear what's going on with Carolina, though? Did you hear the quarterback in Carolina is going to be Sam Darnold?
Sam Darnold, yeah.
So Carolina does not have a bye week because Sam Darnold is starting there. I have no idea where you get your information, but it's wrong. Carolina is playing this week because Sam Darnold was named the starting quarterback.
I am telling you that he does not play this week.
They don't play. So they named the starting quarterback 2 weeks out. They named the starting quarterback. They took out. Wow, that's amazing. I actually thought PJ Walker was okay. I didn't mind PJ Walker that much. I thought he had a pretty good
Baker
game.
Mayfield has not really made a name for himself as a quarterback in the NFL. No, that's for sure.
Baker Mayfield. I don't know if he'll have a job next year. In all seriousness, he may be out of football after the season.
He's Johnny Manziel Part 2.
Yeah,
2.0.
They both won Heisman's. Okay, let's talk running backs, Kasey. Who's your number one running back pickup this week?
Well, I think the top running back, especially with Joe Mixon's injury, is Samaje Perine. I mean, he had 2 touchdowns last week before Mixon went down with the injury. So it's not like he got all of his points to begin with during garbage time or after the injury. So he was already part of the game plan, certainly part of the receiving game plan, because those catches were pretty nice. And to be a part of that offense, especially with the chance that they haven't announced if Jamar Chase is coming back this week, but they're saying he's day to day. So, I mean,
I saw they had the Coach Taylor was on and on NFL.com, and he actually said that there's a chance that Chase could be back this week.
So I think Samaje Perine, obviously we talked about Latavius Murray as a big one. Another one who's still out there is Jerick McKinnon in the Chiefs. He's their receiving option. And I mean, you got who all's hurt now? You have Juju Smith-Schuster concussed. Yep. Kadarius Toney went down. Mecole Hardman's already been ruled out, I think. So Jerick McKinnon as a pass catching option in that backfield is pretty powerful.
Yeah, and we love that rookie from Rutgers, Isaiah
Pacheco, yeah. But I think he's over 60% now.
Yeah, he is. But I'm just saying, and we're talking about the Chiefs running game. I mean, we've been saying his name for the past 6 weeks. I mean, and he's over 60. You can't pick him up. But maybe it's some horrible leagues that I wish I was part of, but I'm not in those leagues.
I bet those are the ones that trade as late as your.
Another player that could be out there because they had a bye week last week is Tampa Bay. Rashard White, who went to an unbelievable university, like it's a great school, right? Actually, I have it right there. Rashard White for Tampa, I think he had a great game 2 weeks ago. I think he'll be seeing the ball a lot. I think they'll be running the ball a lot in Tampa Bay, and right now they're like in first place in that horrible division. So, what's your thoughts on Rashard White? Is that somebody that
if he's available? I can't imagine he's available, but if he is,
that's because it's the bye week. Kasey Scheinfeld, he had that bye week last week, so I'm thinking maybe people had to drop him to pick up somebody else to start. You never know. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would certainly pick him up if he's out there because he's looked more alive than Leonard Fournette in that backfield, and I think Tampa, because they're leading the division aren't they like 1 game under 500?
I don't know. I mean, the division's
like a joke. But they're going to put the best team out there to win. And if White is playing better, he's not going to sit behind Fournette because
how bad is Tampa going to be when Tom Brady retires? In all seriousness, I mean, without Brady, that team is not going to be good. I mean, unless they draft some miracle.
You can say that about a lot of the teams that have a number 1 quarterback.
But I mean, it's an unbelievable draft class coming up in college football. I mean, we got.
But they don't even have a first-round pick, do they?
I don't know.
Or it's not an early one.
Are going to be quarterbacks this year. You heard it from me first, Ross the Boss. But I'm telling you, it's heavy quarterbacks coming out this year. It's going to be unbelievable. You'll see.
It's interesting. I'm watching because I watch college football and I've watched Ohio State play and I've watched Alabama
Okay,
play, and
Heisman, yeah.
and those are the two kind of, I guess, universal top two quarterbacks. And
Well, you forgot somebody that plays here in my hometown named Caleb Williams, who I think he had 500 yards against SC, and I mean, unbelievable against UCLA. Caleb Williams is the real deal. I mean, this guy's going to be a top 3 pick also.
Is he a junior already?
I don't know. I think he can. They have him all
I didn't
projected.
think he was draft eligible. If he is, maybe. But I was just going to say, like,
because I saw the projections and he was in it. So
like these guys, the two quarterbacks. Now Ohio State's quarterback is a little bigger, but the Alabama quarterback looks so small behind an offensive line in college, and it looks like he has trouble seeing over offensive line. I don't have a lot of faith that he's going to be the stud everybody says he's going to be. But
okay, Mike. So Young of Alabama won't be a stud. Got it. Okay.
All right, Nezzy, would you drop
ahead,
Pacheco to pick up Jamison Williams? Just trying to stash players with crazy high upside. That is, to me, an excellent play. I was going to talk about Williams as one of my top waiver wire pickups at wide receiver because speaking of Alabama, we were just talking about Bryce Young. Bryce Young certainly appreciated having Jamison Williams last year, and watching him take the top off of defenses time and time again, especially because most leagues are PPR leagues and wide receivers have proven to be a lot more valuable than running backs. The issue is going to be Jamison Williams is yet to play a game in the NFL, and usually it takes rookie wide receivers 3 or 4 games to get kind of acclimated to the game. But if it's just, okay, you're the fastest guy on the field, run fast, I'll throw the ball far and see if you catch up to it. I don't think he's ever going to be a high volume receiver this year where he catches 7, 8 targets or 6 or 7 targets. He's going to be one of those lottery tickets, kind of the way Gabe Davis was at the start of last year and into last year, where he might have a game where he has 117 yards and 2 touchdowns on like 4 catches. But I would, because Pacheco doesn't catch the ball. And despite the fact he had 100 rushing yards last week, I don't see Kansas City as a team week in, week out that's committed to the run.
Well, dropping Pacheco is just a huge mistake in my book. Is there anybody else you can drop? Is there anybody else on your team that's not Pacheco?
Depends who his other running backs are. If he has CMC and
Pacheco is somebody I would not drop
or something like that, then.
Well, again, I totally disagree about dropping Pacheco. I think you got to keep that guy. I have him stashed on many of my teams, and he's just going to get the ball more, and they're going to run the ball more. You'll see it in Kansas City, especially if they're winning in the game. I think it's a huge mistake, but there you go. He may not be. I'm starting lotto tickets from my bench. Ha 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 ha. That's some Nazi.
Hey, Nezzy, I like that. If you're already guaranteed a playoff spot, like in my MFSN league, I like to point out I'm 11-0 now. So I'm pretty much guaranteed the playoffs. That's when you can do that stuff with your bench and stash players who you think can help you, even if it hurts you going forward.
Yeah. I mean, I just love Pacheco. That's me.
He has ETN and Eckler.
Wow.
So you're not really playing Pacheco, especially if you have.
I'm worried about. I said this before. I'm worried about ETN. He's getting the ball a lot. He's a small guy. He's a small guy.
I want to ask Nezzy a question. Are you did you play in a league against like 4th graders, or are you the greatest drafter and trader of all time? Did you see he has Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams? I'm assuming that's Amari Cooper, Darius Slayton.
So obviously, is it 4-man league or 2-man league?
Well done. Unless you're not telling us you have like Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson as your 2 quarterbacks, your team is pretty stacked.
It's pretty stacked. I'm sure Dr. Dan Retner's in that league because he has no idea what he's doing.
Obviously. I would definitely in that case probably drop Pacheco for Williams, because you're not going to play him over ETN and Eckler unless one of them get hurt.
I'm worried about ETN. I told you this. He's going to get hurt. He's a small guy. He's getting a lot of volume. He's going to happen. You better have somebody ready to roll.
Burrow. He also has Burrow and Tua as his quarterbacks. I assume you're undefeated.
I don't know about undefeated. Who's his tight end? Kelsey?
Well done, Nezzy. I'm proud of you.
Let's talk wide receiver. Obviously, I think the number 1 pickup wide receiver this week is Treylon Burks, the Tennessee Titans. Last week he had 7 catches for 111 yards. This week he goes against the mighty Cincinnati Bengals. I feel he's the number one pickup at wide receiver this week. That's me. Kasey, who's your number one pickup in wide receiver?
I had him up near the top as well because I agree with you. By the way, that takes us back to quarterback. Ryan Tannehill right now is not a bad pickup. That's 2 weeks in a row. He's played really well and thrown multiple touchdown passes in each game. He's going against Cincinnati. That could be a bit of a high scoring affair. So he might air the ball out. I also like Sky Moore. We've talked about last week or the week before, I was talking about Kadarius Toney. Mecole Hardman was good for a while. Juju Smith-Schuster's had good games. They're all hurt, right? And so Sky Moore is suddenly your number. If, let's say, Schuster comes back from his concussion, Sky Moore is still your number 2 wide receiver in that Kansas City offense. He was targeted a bunch last week, and he delivered. And let's be honest, a lot of people preseason were talking about him as the rookie wide receiver to target this year because of the potential in that Kansas City offense. So Treylon Burks is definitely my number 1, but I also really like Sky Moore.
I don't like Sky Moore just because he's a rookie, and Andy Reid has a reputation of not going to rookies that often in their first year. I'm just telling you the facts. It's all I'm reporting. You don't get mad.
I'd still put Christian Watson up there because he did it. He had another touchdown this past week.
2 touchdowns, Kasey Scheinfeld. What are you talking about?
And he was still under 60% owned last I checked.
Yeah. Is he still? Wow. So he's the number 1 guy in Green Bay now. I mean, in Green Bay's playing, I think they play Sunday night. We'll talk about the games coming up. Don't worry. I'm all ready for that. But another guy I like is Paris Hilton. She's great. She's trying to get pregnant. No, I'm just kidding. Paris Campbell. Yeah, I know. I'm teasing.
No, I know.
Paris Campbell of the Colts. He's been getting a lot of targets. Kasey Scheinfeld. Ryan likes him a lot. If you need for some reason because of injuries, if you need a starting receiver, not Paris Hilton, but Paris Campbell is somebody I would take second behind Treylon Burks, but I like Paris Campbell a lot. Who else do you like, Kasey?
All right. First, Just Bob, it looks like you got a jet. Thank you for joining us again. As always, it's great to have you. Have an awesome Thanksgiving, bud. We'll see you next week. Who else do I like? Well, I'm glad you asked. I am a fan of Mac Hollins in Las Vegas. I think he's going to be able to put up some numbers for the rest of the season. And I think with the Rams, you got to look at, I mean, we talked about, did we talk about Van Jefferson yet?
Not yet, but he was on my list. I wanted you to bring him up. But tell us why you like Van Jefferson so much. Well, I like him too.
I mean, look, he's had success in that offense before. Obviously, Cooper Kupp is hurt, so there's targets available. I mean, Cooper Kupp was the biggest target monster in football, and with him being out, the passes have to go somewhere. Allen Robinson is not exactly the type of guy who is a speed or run open guy. He is a contested catch guy. So Palmer's going to get plenty of chances. And so the Rams don't have a great defense. So a lot of these games are going to be shootouts. It is amazing how far a Super Bowl winning team can fall in 6 or 8 months. But Van Jefferson is somebody I would consider.
So Nizzy has a question, Case. Why don't you read it?
He's 8-3. He has Freiermuth at tight end. This is the one who was dropping Pacheco.
So Freiermuth is one of the most consistent tight ends in fantasy football. Keep going.
But he's saying of his bench running backs are Kareem Hunt, Elijah Mitchell, Raheem Mostert, and Alexander Madison. So
okay, I would drop Kareem Hunt. There you go. Problem solved.
Yeah, I think
fixed
it
for you. Okay, drop Kareem Hunt. He's barely in the offense anymore. Chubb's the man in Cleveland. They're on the goal line. Chubb gets the ball. So there you go.
Yeah, that's fair. Kareem Hunt catches more than Pacheco, but
Abraham Pena has a question. Traded Najee Harris.
No, should he
Terry?
Trade? Oh no, he did.
Wow,
trade.
And Terry for Chubb. Unbelievable deal. I mean, again, Terry. I believe it's Scary Terry, right? For
Scary Terry McLaurin.
Commodores. Sure. See how I said Commodores. Got Jacob, Sanders, Monty, Pittman, Jefferson. Wow, you have a strong team. Boyd, McLaren, and Sutton.
Absolutely make that trade. I would hit accept now because
just accept immediately.
I mean, you're not going to miss Terry when you have Michael Pittman, Justin Jefferson, Taj Boyd, and Cortland Sutton. I mean, is Terry probably the second best wide receiver on your team? Probably, but he's not so much better than Boyd and Sutton that you're gonna like be hurting, and you're getting literally a top 3 running back.
And we just gave you 2 guys you could pick up. Hopefully you could pick up Paris Campbell, or you could pick up Treylon Burks. That helps your team a lot. You got 2 guys on waiver, or Van Jefferson. Either of those guys I love. But yes, Chubb is probably one of the top running backs in fantasy football this year, Kasey, right? I mean, he's very consistent. He gets touchdowns, he gets yards, he does everything. So
he's probably the best straight running back in the game. Him and
so you're a Giants fan. Let's talk about the Giants wide receiving core now, because they're minus Robinson. What's your take on Slayton?
I think that's why Dan's not here. He's trying out for the Giants right now as a wide receiver. But I mean, it's going to be Darius Slayton and Richie Davis. Those are going to be the 2.
Richie James.
I'm sorry. Richie James. I was reading the trade that we have to get to in a second. Richie James and Darius Slayton, who both have upside, and Daniel Jones is a much improved quarterback this year, but I would have to be desperate to play one of them. Because the Giants offense is just so Barkley centric, and then they're not a pass heavy team. But if you own one of the wide receivers who's gotten hurt, if you had Kadarius Toney or Wan'Dale Robinson or Cooper Kupp or one of these guys who's now out for a considerable period of time, Darius Slayton's been pretty good the past 3 or 4 weeks. I think he's averaging 4 or 5 catches and almost 70 yards a game. So I would probably pick him over Richie James if I could get them both, if I could only get one and they were both available, but they're not a bad idea to stash on the end of your bench. Lamb Cup.
Go ahead. Cup.
Should I trade Pierce and Gabe Davis for Amari Cooper? Ross, what do you think?
So Gabe Davis, remember all the hype on him beginning of the season? Do you remember everybody talking, this guy's going to have the biggest year. He's going to be unbelievable breakout year. He's going to be great. All these he hasn't done squat, Kasey Schoenfeld. Nothing. He's been a big disappointment like Kyle Pitts, Gabe Davis. No, he's done mediocre at best, okay? I like Pierce a lot. I think you should do the deal, but that's me. Kasey, what do you think?
I'm mixed, because I like having the number 1 running back in an offense that's very run heavy like Pierce is. Gabe Davis is that kind of lottery ticket. He either has 30 points of fantasy points or like 6 fantasy points. And it's never anywhere in between. Amari Cooper he played really well at the beginning of the season. I think if you look at weeks like 6 through 10, he was kind of in a lull where Peoples-Jones kind of took the targets from him. But this last week, he was awesome. And the last couple weeks, he's been pretty good. So
we got a question from Chaka, and that's
I would probably do it to answer that.
Ever see Land of the Lost, Kasey?
I did not see Land of the Lost.
So Land of the Lost was a show that was on in the 70s. It was a live action show on Saturday morning. There was Holly. There was, Holly was like the cute teenager that all the teenager boys like myself were in love with. It was a very, they had Slee Stacks. It was an unbelievable show, Kasey. You got to go watch it. It's the best. So Chaka is like one of the characters from the show. That's where it's from, just so you know. Shard traded away Barkley and Pickens for Walker, the third, and Godwin. PPR league case. What are your thoughts?
I would be hesitant to do that. Only because I think Pickens is one of the highest upside wide receivers.
Did you see that catch he made? I mean, did you see the catch?
He's done it 2 or 3 times this year, and he's become.
He made a catch that was like a highlight reel, like one of the best catches of the year. I mean, Jefferson had a great catch.
Kenny Pickett's favorite target. Yeah. Barkley and Walker are kind of a wash. I think if this was a dynasty league or a keeper league, I would probably do it, because I think Walker's upside is crazy in years to come. And he's certainly as good as Barkley now, but Barkley's been healthy. He had a bad week this week, but I think it's like 1 of 2 he's had in 12 weeks of football. And he's going to get 30 touches a game. So I really like Pickens a lot. I think he might end up being the best wide receiver from this rookie class at the end of the season. And so I would be hesitant. It's not an unfair trade. And if you decided to take it, I could certainly argue just as much for that, especially if we trust that Brady's going to become more consistent and Godwin is healthy, then he certainly is a better PPR kind of wide receiver than Pickens. and Walker has proven to be a stud. I would have to look at the strength of schedule the rest of the way out. I'm not familiar with it off the top of my head. If Seattle has an easy schedule going out in terms of run defenses, then it might not be the worst thing to do.
Well, I'll tell you why I like Barkley more. First of all, their wide receiving crew in New York Giants are horrible. So they have to rely on Barkley a lot more. Seattle has this guy named Metcalf, DK Metcalf. It could be one of the fastest receivers in the league. They also have Lockett, who I love a lot. So they have some really good receivers in Seattle who's going to take the ball away from Walker. So just getting more volume. I would rather have Barkley, obviously. So I think keeping Barkley is the way to do. I would not do that deal. I would keep Barkley. And the Giants are a playoff team right now. I mean, as much as you think they stink, they're in the playoffs. Come on,
horrible.
Playoffs. Let's talk tight end real quick. I want to talk about the upcoming games. For sure. Appreciate the help. Thanks, guys. Help you week. And Nazi, anytime. Thank you for typing your questions. I love it. Tight end Logan Thomas is my number one pickup this week for the Commanders. You know why I like Logan Thomas so much, Kasey Schonfeld? They play Atlanta, who is horrible covering tight ends. Last week he had 5 catches for 66 yards, Logan Thomas. Pretty good game, not bad. I think he's going to have a bigger game against Atlanta. He's my number one tight end pickup for the week. Who do you like, Kasey Schonfeld?
I like him, but I'm a Juwan Johnson guy. You know,
tell me why you like Juwan so much. How many touchdowns has he had in the past 3 games?
He has 5 over the past 5 games, I think. He's been a top 3 tight end in 3 of the last 5 weeks. He has a 31% target share on routes run within 10 yards of the goal line. Like Andy Dalton, 1 out of 3 times he's inside the 10 and has a passing play is looking for Juwan Johnson in the end zone. And let's be honest, tight ends there's a dearth. I mean, you have Travis Kelce, who should be, by the way, I don't know if anybody said this, but I'm starting the campaign right now. I think he should be NFL MVP. I just think what he's doing for the tight end position in Kansas City is incredible. I think he's the most valuable player in the league right now, considering what's happened to their wide receiving core. I mean, everybody knows it's going to Travis Kelce and he catches 3 touchdowns a week. That is baffling.
You tell me. I love Travis Kelce. He's definitely
but Juwan Johnson, outside of him, there's nobody who's been consistent. Mark Andrews was a monster the first 8 weeks of the season, has been hurt pretty much every week ever since. If you can get a guy who has a 30% chance of catching a touchdown every week, that's pretty crazy at the tight end.
And if you don't get him, I also like. This guy sounds like a bad guy in the James Bond series.
I know who you're.
It's Foster Monroe. Doesn't sound like a bad guy in the James Bond.
It's like a Bond villain.
Who is it? It's Foster Monroe. Foster Monroe. That's the criminal is. So Foster Monroe for the Vegas Raiders. I think he's worth a pickup if you really need a tight end. But after that, you can just get a darts and just throw it at any tight end that's starting because it's a guessing game after that. There's really nobody else. I mean, hopefully you have Kelce on your team. You don't have to worry about a tight end right now.
You could probably. I was going to say,
who else do you like?
Well, you can probably look at. I still think Trey McBride in Arizona with Ertz going down and them relying on the tight end so much in that offense this year. McBride caught 5 targets, I think, this past week, 4 or 5 targets for a good amount. And that was his first real week being a starter. I think his role could grow in Arizona's offense, which we saw needs some playmakers in it if you watched the game last night. Evan Ingram in Jacksonville is also a potential streamer. I don't think he's a guy you can draft and rely on, but if you're desperate, he's another tight end I would look at.
Is McBride any relation to Bake McBride, the outfielder for the Philadelphia Phillies back in the 70s and 80s?
That would be awesome if he was.
That would be great. And, he had the smallest bat of any player in history. That stuff I know is just unbelievable. So defenses, here's some string defenses I like in this order. Chiefs are playing the Rams. They're under 50% on Yahoo. Take the Chiefs. I like the Dolphins defense playing Houston at home. Yeah. And I like the Jets defense against Chicago. Those are the 3 streaming defenses. If you need defense this week, try to get one of the 3. But my top one is the Chiefs because the Rams.
See, I like Miami better than the Chiefs, but
that's fine. You see who the Rams waived today?
Yeah,
they waived Darrell Henderson.
Darrell Henderson Jr.
So senior's still on the team.
Right.
which is unbelievable because their running game is bad to begin with, so they just waived who I thought was one of the best running backs they had. But
All right.
not my
Question
problem.
for you from Bronson Howe. Would you trade Zeke for Amari Cooper or for Mike Evans?
So would I trade Zeke for Amari Cooper? So I would want, if I was trading Zeke, I would want Mike Evans. I think Mike Evans' value is a lot bigger. This is a receiver that has over 1,000 yards every season he played in the NFL. He's obviously he's Brady's favorite target. So yes, I would want
especially
Mike
red
Evans
zone.
over. Yeah, I mean, I
I
would
probably take Mike Evans too, but not just for that reason. I think there isn't a lot of competition for targets right now in Tampa Bay, which sounds terrible to say for a Tom Brady team, but I think he's guaranteed to get you 8 to 10 targets a week. And Amari Cooper is going to be most likely getting thrown to by another quarterback here in a couple of weeks when Deshaun Watson is eligible after his suspension. And while he has good chemistry right now with Jacoby Brissett, we haven't seen what that offense is going to look like with Deshaun Watson at the helm because he's never played for the Browns before. So Mike Evans to me is the safer
he's played during
players.
preseason and he was god awful. I don't know if you remember that. It was horrible.
But I think Mike Evans is the safer of those two.
I think Mike Evans is the guy that can heat up during the playoffs, especially in fantasy playoffs, and it'd be a big addition to your team. Yes, get Mike Evans now, especially with that beautiful weather in Tampa in December, Kasey.
And I think, and on top of that, I think Zeke's role is diminishing with how amazingly dynamic Pollard looks compared to
what
him.
a week Pollard has for fantasy owners. Congratulations to all you fantasy owners who had Pollard. I mean, this guy won you your team league. This is a player. Pollard's a guy that can win your league. That's a game-changing player. You know what I mean?
He really is.
I mean, that's somebody that like last year was Cup. This year it's Pollard. You always want to find those gems, and that Pollard's the gem. It really is. Let's talk about the Thursday night games. So the first game, Kasey, I know you enjoy having your turkey, and the early game is the Bills going to Detroit. I guess they stayed in Detroit, didn't they?
They're going to stay in Detroit. No, they went home.
I mean,
did
you
see the picture of Josh Allen?
Yeah.
There was a picture of Josh Allen shoveling his driveway in a U.S. men's national team jersey.
He was shoveling his driveway?
Shoveling his driveway after the snowstorm in Buffalo.
Before he left for Detroit?
No, once he came back. I think once he came back.
They came back. They did not stay in Detroit.
Nope, they came back.
That's stupidity at the best. Okay, so the Bills are like they're favorites by a lot of points. I didn't even check. Doesn't matter. But fantasy-wise, you got to take Allen. You got to take Singletary. You got to take Diggs. You got to take Davis.
I think Dawson Knox is worth taking this week.
I was going to ask you about that. Do you like Dawson Knox at tight end?
I do. I mean, he targeted him 7 times last week. So, I mean, if he trusts him, he's a good target to have.
And I know the Bills' defense is good. I think that Detroit's going to step it up. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, and I think Detroit could win the game. I'm going to say this right now. I think Detroit could beat them. I think.
Wow. So you're saying take Detroit and the spread?
I just think it's a short week, Kasey Scheinfeld, and all this traveling Buffalo's been doing and going back and forth, the snow shoveling. You said all this. I mean, again, and Allen's not 100%. You know that. Don't pretend like he's questionable. He's not.
And Jamal Williams has been awesome. He accounted for all their touchdowns.
3 touchdowns last week.
Yeah. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a very good wide receiver.
St. Brown is great. I mean, I really think Detroit has a chance, and it's Thanksgiving. So we're going. I like Detroit, and Detroit. You said it. Jamal Williams is a machine. The next game is something I guarantee. There's no that Kasey Scheinfeld will have this game on at his house. The Giants are playing in Dallas against the Cowboys, who destroyed Minnesota.
And I think it's going to be a slaughter again.
But that's the way
I think they're going to cream them. I still am mad at the Giants for trading down from pick 10. I think it was pick 10. The second time they traded down when Micah Parsons was was available to be drafted. They let Chicago take their spot to draft Justin Fields to take the spot behind Dallas. And then Dallas took Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons is from Harrisburg. He went to high school about five minutes from where I'm sitting right now, and then went to Penn State. Like, I've seen this guy playing since he was 16 years old. And you could tell from day one that this guy was going to be a stud. And There was nothing more the Giants needed than a linebacker in that defense, and they kept trading down and ended up with Kadarius Toney.
Well, there you go. And he's not
And
even on the team
so
anymore. So
I
we got
still
a
haven't
question
forgiven
from Nigel Molsev. Is that right, Case?
Milosev.
Milosev. Your Russian is perfect. If Chase is a go, again, Chase is going to be like, we'll know on Saturday about Chase if he's playing or not. If he practices on Friday or Saturday, he'll probably go. If he doesn't practice the whole week, Nigel, he's not going to play. So there you go. We'll know by Friday afternoon. Can you make a case to bench him? Yes, and start Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson's they're playing at home against Houston. There you go. The worst run defense. So yes, Jeff Wilson I think he's the man.
Is he getting more touches right now than most?
Last week they had a bye week, so
right.
They didn't play. The week before he got more touches than Mozart. He really did. And I think Jeff Wilson's going to have a big game. But of course, you start your stars. Chase is a star. So I can't answer that question until Friday. But you have the internet and you have Twitter and everything else, Nigel. So you'll be able to check that. But if he practices on Friday, yes, you start Chase. If he doesn't, tell us who your other running backs are, because you may want to start Jeff Wilson instead of one of your other running backs. Let us know. Kasey Scheinfeld. So the Giants, Cowboys, I feel the Cowboys had a huge game. I think they're going to have a down game coming up. I think the Giants have a chance to win this game. How about that? I think Barkley's going to go off for 100 yards. I feel that Daniel Jones is going to be running like a maniac. He'll be scoring. He'll get a rushing TD for sure.
I think Daniel Jones is going to have a forced fumble or two by Micah Parsons.
You underestimate your Giants. I say it's a close game, and I say the Giants if the Giants lose, it'll be by a field goal. That's my prediction.
27-10.
Wow, Kasey Scheinfeld. So the next game is the Minnesota Vikings are playing at home against the Patriots. The Patriots are very disappointing. Kasey.
Was that not the worst football game ever? The Jets Patriots.
Let's talk about that. I watched on Red Zone. That's what I do. Nigel, I'll get your question in a second. I watched on Red Zone. So it was 3-3, and it was like the end of the game practically. And they scored a special teams touchdown.
It was a punt return to win the game with like 3 seconds left.
They won the game.
I mean, I guess that's exciting. That's like hitting the game-winning 3-pointer from half court when the game is tied. But the problem was, if it was a basketball game, the game was tied at like 12-12 in the fourth quarter. The first, 59 and a half minutes of that game was so bad.
They even show Red Zone. You know what they do in Red Zone? They show like the highlights when you're in the Red Zone. They show that part. They barely showed that game because no one's ever.
Even Garrett Wilson called out Zach Wilson by the end of the game. He was like, "That's just bad quarterbacking." Like,
so Nigel's Kasey, his other running. I mean, how did you get CMC and JT on the same? Seriously, how do you get?
You're a brilliant.
Is this the two? I mean, you're talking about the two players that were drafted like 1 and 2 in most leagues. How do you get both those guys? And you have Lamb and you have St. Brown and
Jamar Chase. That's a heck of a squad there. But you could make that argument. But if Chase is a full participant in practice Friday or Saturday, you can't. I can't fathom benching one of the 3 best wide receivers in football for a running back in a timeshare, even if it's against a bad.
You got to start Chase, especially the Bengals.
And the way I look at it is this, Nigel. If I have Jeff Wilson on my bench and put Jamar Chase in, and Jeff Wilson outscores Jamar Chase, I can live with that. If I leave Jamar Chase on my bench in a close game and he puts up 30 points and Jeff Wilson puts up 17, which is still a really good game for Jeff Wilson, that would be more soul crushing for me.
Wow, he's 4-7 with that lineup, Kasey, and he needs to win out to make the playoffs. Obviously, it's amazing with that team. Who's your quarterback? I'm just curious who your quarterback is. Is it Russell Wilson? Is it who's your
Carson Wentz. It's Carson Wentz and
the Jones. It's Jones from New England. So
Garrett Wilson.
Yeah.
Zach Wilson. Justin Herbert. Wow.
Zach Wilson could be out of a job. So I think Minnesota's going to have a bounce back game. I think they'll destroy the Patriots. I don't think the Patriots can keep up offensively with them. And I see Justin Jefferson having a huge game. I see Cook having a huge game. I see them bouncing back. It's a short week for the Patriots, and I know they won, but doesn't matter. I think I see the Vikings coming back and winning that game. What do you think, Case?
I think the Vikings will beat the Patriots. I don't think the Patriots have the weapons to put up points. I know although Minnesota's defense got exposed pretty
Oh
badly
yeah,
by Dallas last week, I just think their defense plays with a lot more pride this week. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is a shellacking. I mean, let's be honest, the Vikings are still what, 9-2?
they're 9-2. They're still
So they're
first
still
place
leading
by
the
a lot of
North.
games in that
Yeah, and
division.
they're
A
still
horrible
in the
division.
play for a first round bye in the playoffs. They have a lot to play for.
Yeah,
This is a team they should beat. I see it happening.
I do too. Especially a short week really hurts the away team in everything. So I agree with you. If you have any questions about your dynasty league, about your keeper league, about your redraft league, we can answer them right now. Who to start, who to trade, what to do. We're here for you. We have 5 minutes left. Casey Scheinfeld. Let's talk about the Green Bay is at the Eagles. That's the Sunday night game.
Hold on. We got to trade first. Trying to trade Jamar for Evans and D-Hop. Other person won't budge, but really need wide receivers. I don't know who else to add to team. I have Geno Smith, Chubb, Barkley, Jamar, Marquise Brown, although wasn't he designated to return? Jerry Jeudy, Deontay Foreman, Cordero Patterson, Raheem Mostert, Freiermuth, and DPJ. And Donovan Peoples-Jones isn't a bad one there either.
Right. So Judy's hurt, so he's worthless. You can throw him away. You got Mostert, who shares the ball, like we said. You're trying to get Jamar Chase, obviously, for Evans and D-Hop.
That's a lot to ask for, especially with if anybody watched any of the Arizona game last night, D-Hop was targeted like 19 times in a row, it felt like. So I don't think anybody's going to give him up and something else for a player coming off a hip injury.
And the thing about Jamar Chase is he's hurt, so no one wants to trade for a hurt player. So you're going to have to trade somebody else from your team. I would wait till Chase comes back. I'd rather have Chase than D-Hop, but that's me. I just feel Arizona is just on a downward spin, and they're just getting worse every week. I gave JJ for this is Nigel. I gave JJ for CMC
and Amon-Ra.
I traded Connor and Pittman for JT. That was a great trade. Whoever accepted that must have their head examined. Connor and Pittman for JT.
When JT
was hurt. Yeah. Also traded Chase
when he got hurt for cheap.
So
you made smart trades. You sacrificed a lot of depth, and so hopefully you can win out. Yeah. Now, Saif, to get back to your question about the person not budging, if they're not going to budge, they're not going to budge. I mean, you can always offer Deontay Foreman as part of the package because he's a lead running back. Cordero Patterson for him because as part of it too. Or look at Sky Moore or Treylon Burks if they're on your waiver wire and pick up those guys and try to keep Jamar Chase right now, because then once he gets healthy, if you have a healthy Jamar Chase with some of those other guys, I mean, to go with Chubb and Barkley, you can compete even if your flex position wide receiver isn't a stud.
And if you really like, Hopkins for Chase is probably not that lopsided of a deal as you think. Like you said,
yeah, but that doesn't help. But he wants depth.
I think
he's talking about getting.
I know. I'm just saying, he really wants Hopkins. The only person I can see on that roster is probably Chase that he would budge on, but you never know.
Yeah, maybe Chase and Cordero Patterson, or Chase and Deontay Foreman might move it a little more. Or and you could throw in Donovan Peoples-Jones if you want. You have DPJ there at the end, who's still a pretty good wide receiver right now.
He's getting like 7-8 targets a game. I mean,
yeah, you have
Peoples-Jones. He had a touchdown last week too. Not bad. So the Monday night game, I know you're going to watch this, Casey. You're going to be so excited to watch this game.
Which one is
Pittsburgh Steelers at the Colts. Oh. It's snooze fest. But again, fantasy wise, Pickens, you love Pickens. I knew when he was drafted, he'll be a star. And the Colts, Jonathan Taylor is starting to run the ball. And I love Jeff Saturday being the coach there. I just love how he's just like never coached a high school team a few years ago, and now he's coaching the NFL. I love it, Kasey. I love it.
Yeah, it's not going to be the greatest game to watch. I actually really like Pittsburgh in this matchup. I think for some reason, I think they're going to not only win, but they're going to win convincingly. I think Pickett the game is starting to slow down a little bit for him. He's starting to put up points against better defenses. He's got great receivers in Pickens and Deontay Johnson. He's got a good tight end in Freiermuth, Najee Harris, and why am I blanking on his last name? The backup Warren, Jaylen Warren in the backfield is good for him. I kind of like Pittsburgh's offense in this game. Look at it. Pickett is turning out. Would you rather have Pickett or Zach Wilson right now as your quarterback?
Pickett. I loved him at
and
the
Zach
University
Wilson.
of
They
Pittsburgh.
traded up and traded the farm to get him. So it's crazy what's going on.
Yeah,
so,
Zach Wilson, he had a bad game. Now everybody's on him because it's New York.
He's had a bad season.
Well, I thought he started off okay, didn't he? I have to look at his stats, but
no, he didn't start the season. Remember, they were playing well.
Right, he was hurt. Right,
with the statue of what's his name, Delaware, University of Delaware quarterback, won the Super Bowl with the Ravens. Why am I blanking on his name?
I know you're talking about his. I've got his name too.
Jeez,
is that funny?
I have to look it up. If anybody can type it up,
just type in backup quarterback Jets. But doesn't matter. So I feel that Pickett's going to have a good game. I like Pittsburgh in this game.
Joe Flacco.
Flacco, University of Delaware. Good catch. I like the Steelers in this game. I don't think the Colts. I think TJ Watts is going to be all over Matt Ryan. He'll smother him like a wet blanket. And I feel that the Steelers are going to win this game. They love playing Monday night, Kasey Scheinfeld. The Steelers on Monday night, I forgot what the record is, but it's exceptional. So I'm going to take the Steelers big in that game. Mike Evans,
Bronson, both of us agree that we would rather have Mike Evans, I think, for the rest of the season because we know what to get with him and Tom Brady. Here's
the last question. DJ Nightmare 14. Hey guys, just made a blockbuster trade. I got Fields for my Tua and Gino.
Bye weeks.
But okay. Ends up doing great and shipped him for Jamari. Wow. What's your thoughts on that?
Considering that Fields has a shoulder injury right now, and I agree, Cooper is doing really well right now. I'm just saying for predictability going forward, DJ.
Right, and the Fields, if you look at the Bears' schedule coming up, DJ Nightmare, it's a very hard schedule. He's not going to have the games. He's not going to have the games.
You still have. So, but what you're saying is you still have Tua Tagovailoa and Geno Smith as potential quarterbacks, and you added who could be the best wide receiver during the fantasy playoffs. So
in the world,
yes.
In the world,
if you came here for us to tell you good job, guess what? Good job, my friend. You did really well. Good job. With that one.
And again, Justin Fields, I traded him in a bunch of leagues. I picked him up a while back, and I traded him just because he was doing so well. And their schedule coming up, the Bears, it's a tough one. So, yes, you don't want to have two on your team starting next week. Trust me. Waddle and Lamb. Oh, this is Christopher Howe.
No, Christopher Howe asked Waddle and Lamb for Josh Allen, Alvin Kamara, and Peoples-Jones. Look, I am a big believer if you can get a top 3 quarterback, they are so much better than everybody else that it's almost worth trading anything to get them. If Kamara is healthy, because he was a little banged up last week. I think that's a slam dunk trade for you.
Who's this quarterback? He traded away at Josh Allen. So who's his starting quarterback
traded
now?
For Josh Allen. No, he traded. I think.
Okay, so he got Josh Allen.
I think if you're getting Josh Allen, Kamara, and Peoples-Jones, you probably got the better end of that trade.
Yeah.
As long as you have another good wide receiver, because Peoples-Jones is not going to replace Jalen Waddle by himself. I think he can replace CeeDee Lamb. I know CeeDee Lamb's had a good couple weeks, but he hasn't been real consistent this year.
Yeah, I mean, again, Josh Allen's a guy that's going to win you the league. I know he's not healthy, but he'll get healthy in the next couple of weeks. Don't worry. Well, Kasey, it's that time. We're gonna get going now. It's Thanksgiving week, guys. If you have any late questions, you can always text us or email us, whatever any way you want to do it. You can text us on this platform of MFSN. We're here to answer any questions you have in fantasy football. I'm Ross the Boss. We have one more question, Kasey.
All right.
Go, do it.
Should I trade away Jacoby Myers to get Cordero Patterson and Algier? My running backs are Kamara, Mixon. I'm assuming that's P. Ryan. My wide receivers, Olave, Pittman, Myers, Slayton, Dotson, PPR. Yes, I would make that trade because it gives you all of the running back options in Atlanta, which is a run-heavy team. Jacoby Myers is having a good season, but I don't trust Mac Jones that much, and you have plenty to replace him with Olave, Pittman, Slayton, and Dotson. So
yeah,
yes,
I would make that trade too.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. We will not be here on Thursday for our normal strategy show, but we'll be back here, Ross and I, next Tuesday to answer any questions. We hope you have a great holiday. We hope you get to watch lots of football. If you can, try to cheer on the men's national team in the World Cup on Friday on Fox. There's no NFL games that day, so you're safe to watch the other football. Hopefully they can hang with England, and we will see you next week.
I'm Ross the Boss, and I love talking fantasy football.